Welcome. As a new employee, we want you to know that we are excited to have you as a new member of our team. Keeping you safe, healthy, and injury-free is our top priority. We will now discuss some of the essential elements of our safety and health program. Please pay close attention because all our employees and team members are expected to make workplace safety priority number one. All employees should be aware that our workplace contains hazards, which can cause injury or death if not controlled or avoided. Our safety program provides the training, procedures, and protective equipment necessary to prevent injuries. All employees should come to work each day with a good safety attitude and a willingness to do their job in a safe manner. There is never a reason to perform an unsafe act in an effort to do your job. If you are not able to perform your job safely, stop work and seek assistance. Employees must be alert and able to perform their jobs. This is why alcohol and illegal drugs are prohibited from the workplace. In addition, be aware that some prescriptions and over-the-counter medications can affect your ability to work safely. Notify your supervisor of any medications you are taking. One of your most important job responsibilities is wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment, commonly called PPE. Personal protective equipment is your last line of defense against injuries. At a minimum, you should wear safety glasses with side shields, long pants, and closed-toed shoes of sturdy construction. Depending on the specific job you are performing, additional protective equipment may be required. If your job tasks put you at risk of chemical splashes or excessive flying particles, safety goggles will be required because they provide more protection than safety glasses. In addition, certain tasks also require a face shield. Because a face shield does not properly protect your eyes, be sure to wear the appropriate eye protection under the face shield. Certain jobs or work areas have noise levels that may damage your hearing. In these areas, earplugs, ear muffs, or canal caps will be required. When your head is placed at risk of being struck by falling objects or bumping into low-hanging obstructions, a hard hat will be required. To protect your hands, gloves come in a wide range of styles and materials. The type of glove needed will depend upon the hazards of your job. Heavy leather gloves should be used when handling rugged and rough materials. Cut-resistant gloves should be worn when handling materials with sharp edges and when using knives. Chemical-resistant gloves should be worn when handling or using hazardous chemicals. Take the time to use the correct glove for the job. When your work environment has an increased risk of foot injury, such as being struck by a falling heavy or sharp object, safety shoes will be required. A safety shoe includes a heavy leather upper, a reinforced toe box or steel toe, and a sole designed to provide traction for your particular work surface. Certain jobs require specialized equipment such as respirators, personal fall arrest systems, arc-rated clothing, or chemical-resistant clothing. If your job requires these types of items, you will receive additional training in their proper selection and use. Be sure to keep your PPE clean and well-maintained, and always wear it properly. Remember, it cannot protect you if you're not wearing it. Being alert to our surroundings is one way to prevent injuries. Look for warning signs and other posted information. Signs provide information about required protective equipment or the specific dangers of an area. Pay attention to these signs and heed their warnings. Also pay attention to designated walkways and aisleways. These areas are designed to keep you away from hazards while you move about the facility. Stay within their marked boundaries when traveling to and from your work area. A common source of injury in any workplace is a slip or trip hazard. Avoid these hazards by paying attention to your path of travel. Look for uneven surfaces, slippery floors, and cords or debris which may present tripping hazards. Never run at work. Instead, travel at a pace that allows you to safely avoid any obstacles you may encounter. If you see a slip or trip hazard, correct it if you are able. Otherwise, mark the hazard and report it immediately. When using stairs, use the handrail and never carry a load that blocks your view. Another hazard of which you must be aware is the one presented by moving equipment such as forklifts, pallet jacks, cranes, and other moving vehicles. As a pedestrian moving about the facility, you must share the aisleways with these types of moving equipment, and your safety depends on your level of awareness. Stop at all intersections and crosswalks. Look both ways carefully and also overhead before proceeding. Listen for horns and backup alarms, and also watch for warning lights. The movement of these vehicles is unpredictable, and they often back up or turn suddenly with no warning. Never assume an equipment operator can see you. Always stand well clear of any moving equipment and yield the right-of-way. There are other pieces of equipment and machinery in the workplace that present hazards. Whether it's a small power tool, a large press, or other type of equipment, the powerful actions performed by these types of machines or equipment can be very dangerous. Under normal circumstances, workers are protected from the hazards associated with these types of machines by machine guarding, protective light curtains, or pressure-sensitive mats. Never remove or defeat any type of machine guarding, and never reach around or through the guarding or protective light curtains. When working with or near this type of equipment, keep long hair pulled back and do not wear loose clothing or jewelry that may become entangled in moving parts. Never attempt to operate a machine or piece of equipment for which you have not been trained and authorized. There are various chemicals used in our operations that may be harmful to your safety or health. These can range from simple cleaning supplies to industrial chemicals and everything in between. All chemical containers in our facility must be labeled. This chemical label will contain information about the hazards presented by the chemical and some of the precautions that must be taken before using or handling the chemical. Some of this information is represented by pictograms. Pictograms represent the physical and health hazards presented by the chemical or substance. Some examples of the physical hazards represented by pictograms are explosive, flammable, corrosive, oxidizer, and compressed gas. Some examples of the health hazards represented by pictograms are irritant, toxic and chronic health hazard. When these types of pictograms appear, you may wish to seek out more detailed information by referencing the chemical's safety data sheet. A safety data sheet contains 16 sections of specific information about a chemical, such as first aid procedures, personal protective equipment, proper storage, and its physical and health hazards. Our organization maintains a safety data sheet for every chemical on site. These safety data sheets are always available for employee review and should be consulted before using a specific chemical for the first time. If your job requires the use of a specific chemical or hazardous substance, you will receive more detailed training on that particular chemical. Good housekeeping is a responsibility for all employees. Proper housekeeping is critical in preventing workplace fires and injuries. Good housekeeping includes maintaining a clean work area free of excess trash and debris, putting your tools and supplies in their proper places when not in use, keeping the floor area clear of tripping hazards, storing flammable materials in a designated area away from heat sources, and keeping aisles or paths of travel to exits clear, visible, and properly marked. There are certain areas in our workplace that are extremely dangerous and may only be entered by authorized personnel. One such area is called a confined space. A confined space is defined as an area that is not designated for continuous occupancy, that is large enough for an employee to enter and perform work, and there is limited or restricted means for entry and exit. They often pose hazards to workers such as toxic or explosive atmospheres, fall hazards, or physical hazards such as engulfment or moving parts. Workers entering these types of confined spaces must obtain a written permit before entering, and specific entry procedures must be followed. If you witness a confined space emergency in progress, do not enter the space to assist. Call 911 or activate your facility's emergency response plan. Another potential hazard in the workplace is the unexpected starting of equipment or unintentional contact with energized electrical parts. Workers must be protected from these hazards when guards are removed, electrical doors or covers are opened, or any time a worker is potentially exposed to injury from the unexpected release of energy. To control these hazards, our facility has developed an energy control program, commonly called Lockout-Tagout. It is called Lockout-Tagout because all energy sources to a machine or piece of equipment must be opened and locked in the disconnected position and marked with a tag to indicate the equipment must not be re-energized. The only employees who should perform a Lockout-Tagout procedure are those employees who are authorized to do so, which are usually maintenance workers who perform maintenance and service on the machines. All employees potentially affected by the lockout will be notified before it occurs, and also when it has been completed so they can return to work. All other employees must be aware and recognize when a Lockout-Tagout procedure is in progress, and know they are prohibited from removing a lock and tag or trying to return power to the machine before the Lockout-Tagout procedure is complete. A potential health hazard of which you should be aware is the risk of contracting an illness by coming into contact with contaminated human blood or bodily fluids. These contaminants, referred to as blood-borne pathogens, can transmit diseases such as hepatitis, various hemorrhagic fevers, and HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. Blood-borne pathogens can enter your body through contact with an open cut or wound, through sticks or cuts from contaminated needles or other sharp objects, as well as ingestion, inhalation, or sexual contact. Because you cannot visually tell if blood or bodily fluids are contaminated, you must always protect yourself from exposure by practicing universal precautions. Universal precautions include always using a protective barrier device between you and bodily fluids, such as latex or nitrile gloves. Also, when handling broken glass or other sharp objects, use tongs or similar tools instead of your hands. A common source of exposure in the workplace is from a bleeding coworker. If a coworker is injured, avoid contact and activate the company's emergency plan for reporting injuries so the properly trained first response team can provide assistance. If you do come into contact with blood or bodily fluids, take these steps to reduce your chances of contracting a disease. If contact occurs on the skin, immediately wash the affected area with warm water and soap. If the material splashes in your eyes, rinse them thoroughly with water for 15 minutes. Be sure to report all exposures right away. Emergencies can happen at any time, sometimes with little or no warning, and it is important to know how to handle them calmly and safely. Become familiar with the exits, evacuation routes, storm shelters, and designated meeting places or rally points closest to your work area. A fire, bomb threat, or severe chemical release would necessitate an evacuation of the premises. When you are alerted to one of these emergencies, report to your assigned rally point and remain until you are accounted for and dismissed by your supervisor. In the event of severe weather, go to the storm shelter nearest your work area and remain there until dismissed. If there is an active shooter or other violent threat in the workplace, remain calm and assess the situation. The best course of action is to avoid contact with the threat by leaving the area, if it's safe to do so. If you are unable to leave the area safely, hide from the threat and deny access by locking doors or blocking doorways with heavy items. If you are directly faced with violence, fighting back to save your life is your last resort. In this program, we've discussed some of the essential safety elements needed to stay safe at work. Every job at our facility can be done safely. We will never ask you to perform your job in an unsafe manner. If at any time you feel you cannot perform your job safely, stop work and ask your supervisor for assistance. Taking time to do the job correctly and being aware of your surroundings will help you and your coworkers make it home safely at the end of each shift.